that evidence as far as the SIM swap that was done on Senzo Meyiwa's phone, and what Steyn had to say about this in court.
We move to the next one. Here we got the handset number now. Handset number is 35701 804 021687.
27.
That's it. That's the number of the handset. This handset and the number receive a call from cell phone number 27872 300 401. Also on the 27th of October 2014 at 16:21:50. And just to point out to the court, my lord, it's the same SIM card, the new one, with the number 65501 257 060 4203. Then we follow up on the handset number and then link to the number 2772 149 3899. And it belongs to David Matabula. And there was 8 calls between David Matabula and Kelly Khumalo.
Sorry, Paula, can you just tell the court, how did you establish that it was a call between Kelly Khumalo
Yes.
and David Matabula?
If I go to the section 205, then I could identify
Yes.
that there was the 8 calls were between that number and that number from Kelly Khumalo. But the phone was still off, all the calls has been pulled forward. But my opinion is it could be that it's an old phone of David Matabula that they just used to put in the new SIM card.
Wow. Good morning. What we just heard, good people, is that it's Colonel Steyn reading out the evidence that relates to a SIM swap. Now, for me, I'm going to try and unpack this evidence of a SIM swap. I'll tell you up front, I don't believe that the information that Steyn has related, it is quite accurate. I'll outline in terms of my reasoning and my findings based on the same information that is before the court. Now, we all know that a SIM swap is, you can only do a SIM swap if you go to a cell phone shop or a mobile operator and then buy a new SIM card that is blank, and then you follow the prompt, what you need to do. Bear in mind that this solution, it's not for 2025. We must think that what could have been the SIM swap process look like in 2014. 2014, October 27, because that's the day in question. I can imagine that perhaps in 2014, the SIM swap will have taken about maybe between 2 to 4 hours for it to take effect, as compared to now, which is the turnaround time is slightly better due to improvement in technology. Let's look at the evidence relating to the SIM swap. Now, Steyn says, for you to do a SIM swap, you need to have an ID. Now, an ID. And then the SIM swap that is done is a SIM swap that is done on Senzo Meyiwa's phone. This, for me, raises eyebrows. Why will a person, Kelly, do a SIM swap on Senzo Meyiwa's phone? Because Senzo Meyiwa's phone is not the phone that was stolen. Because also Senzo Meyiwa's phone is, you can't even use the banking apps. So what will be the narrative for you to actually do a SIM swap on Senzo Meyiwa's phone? This is when I believe that that's when the state cooking has gone wrong. They did not think hard about what they were preparing for the South Africans. Now, why this is not making sense? There is a witness that has come to court before Colonel Steyn. This witness is Tumelo Madlala. Tumelo Madlala says, Kelly Khumalo was refusing with Senzo's ID. Now, do you see now how they were building up the blocks? Is that they're gonna say Kelly refused with the ID so that he can go and do a SIM swap. But what will have been the fraudulent activities that Kelly will have wanted to do with Senzo's phone and with the SIM swap, Brad? That's one point. Number two, now the fact that Steyn is authenticating that there's a SIM swap that was done. So definitely then it means that indeed then Kelly, there was a reason for her to refuse with the ID. Now, they're saying that the SIM swap will have been done on the 27th around 9 in the morning. 27th of October, 2014. Now, we've seen the video clips that there is a full coverage of Kelly Khumalo's house, at least from 5:30 when the journalists were there. We hear the journalists telling us that Kelly is there, but that is subject to confirmation. But if Kelly left around 3 a.m. on the same day when they were escorted by a certain Colonel Netling to Malberton. Now, then he comes back to the crime scene in Vosloorus. When you think about the timeline and the timeline that they say it's the time that he did the SIM swap, it doesn't make sense. And the lady that was mentioned as a person who was working for Vodacom in Garden City at the time, she now works somewhere for another company. That also doesn't make sense. What am I saying, people? I'm saying that the story of a SIM swap and the timelines there, I think that part does not make sense. I don't think that it is not, there's a lot of errors around it. So therefore, I don't believe that it's a true. Now, Steyn doesn't stop there. He then tells the court that he then picked up that the new SIM card was installed in the new phone, a small phone, a Nokia 2100. A Nokia 2100. So they're saying that Kelly, between 3:30 a.m. and 9 a.m., while he was being escorted by the police, and while his phone was taken by the police and the other one was stolen, he then may have actually contacted David Matebula, a chief soccer player, to borrow her a Nokia 2100. That is a problem to me because David Matebula at the time, he was at his prime. So I don't see him being a soccer player carrying a small phone that he will borrow to kill. That's one part. But then number two is, if that version is true, why the state did not subpoena David Matebula to come and testify? Because the number was called, we've then checked the number. That number actually never belonged to David Matebula. It belonged to another Matebula. Now, I had to go back into the case and say, why will Steyn, the old man, SAPS of color, of white origin, be involved in the so-called cooking of the state? I had to give him a benefit of the doubt. Then I realized that Steyn may have done the process correctly of trying to look at the new Nokia phone that is in question and then go to Vodacom or any mobile operator and trace the phone with the IMEI number. So on the NOC system or in the systems of the mobile operators, they can definitely tell you using an IMEI number that how many SIM cards that phone were actually installed in that phone previously. They can give you the history of that phone and the SIM card that it actually installed. Now, I think that's when now Stein discovered that there is another number that used to be installed in that SIM card beside the new SIM card, the new SIM number of Senzo Mayu. Now, that number belonged to Matebula. He doesn't give us the full name. As Stein says, he checked on Truecaller, it says Matebula. And then he says he asked around and he was told that Matebula soccer. So what does that mean? Let me unpack it for you. So we know based on the evidence that has been presented in the case that once the incident is the incident of the 26th took place in Vosloorus, amongst the officers that responded first, there was an officer by the surname of Matebula. Guys, this is not a coincidence. That is why, for me, I realized that the key that Stein may have actually went on to actually uncover that it will have been that there's Matebula that also came there on the crime scene. As the first people, one of the first police officers that arrived on the crime scene was the Matebula. Now, what is also interesting, with all respect to Men in Blue, but I do picture an old warrant officer carrying two phones, a J something phone and a smalanyana phone, a penna phone. You understand? I'm saying this thing with all lot of respect, but it's such a coincidence that a phone, a number can be assigned to Matebula. And amongst the first people that arrived on the crime scene is Matebula. Now, for me, I felt that they could have actually investigated further. That is why I always believe that when it comes to this case around the forensic evidence of cell phones, there were no forensic work that was done. There was no forensic investigation that was done because they spent a lot of time hiding information. That's what we've actually experiencing in this case. Because why is a Nokia, a Penna phone, will have been assigned to a top football player at that time? It doesn't make sense. It will never make sense. Now, when then they say, Uguti, David Matebula kept on phoning that number. If now as a soccer player, they already know, kind of like know that Senzo is normal. Why now David will keep on phoning Senzo's phone? It doesn't make sense. Because I don't think that there's no evidence that I've seen so far that says that Senzo was very close with David. Maybe we can say that David was just grieving, he just couldn't understand it. But you keep on making the same phone call every day, every hour, the full day, almost over 8 times calls. No, but that, for us that have been in the forensic space, what does that mean? It means that you're trying to create another record or another perception. Then I will do a SIM swap myself, and then I'll be in even a different location, try to create, try to phone that phone as if now this phone is has a new life. Basically, that the phone has been active prior to the crime scene, or they wanted to kind of like plant the phone as if it's the phone that Senzo was using the day before. Then they realized that, you know what, this thing is becoming a mess. You see, because it doesn't make sense why this introduction of a SIM swap as well as David Matebula was introduced in this case. Therefore, I then say that Steyn has colluded, has actually lied, has misled the court as well as South Africans, because in the work that he has done, I am personally challenging him to tell me that, you know what, if I'm talking nonsense, you must just tell me in my face, or you must take me to court. Because there's just no way, it doesn't make technical, logical sense what Steyn says or what the investigation team have settled on with relating to on this matter regarding the David Matebula. I can tell you now, good people, that there was never a call between Senzo Mewa's phone and David Matebula, because why will David Matebula phone a dead man the whole day? What was his intention? And then also when you look around, I don't think even David Matebula is KK's type. I think KK liked them tall. Yeah, so I don't think David will have made a cut in Kelly Khumalo's type. But then regardless on that, but we must try to avoid a situation where people are being mentioned in that court, but then nobody comes back and actually hold them to account. Nobody comes back or show them the statement. At least up until now, there is no proof that there is David Matebula's statement in the docket. I don't know. I've not seen the docket. So now, good people, I maintain that the story that we've been told of David Matebula, it's nonsense. It doesn't exist. It's a fabrication. It will never exist. Now, that now takes me to a next phase of this cell phone forensic work. Now, Steyn then explains to court how was he able to establish the numbers that were used that belongs to David Matebula. He makes mention of the use of third-party tools, your true callers. He also makes mention of using the phone books. But then there's an assumption that the information that Steyn now has already been downloaded. What do I mean downloaded? I mean that there was a cell phone extraction that may have taken place. We may have heard people talking about the tool called XRY. What I'm going to try to do in a very short presentation, less than a minute, you're going to have to pause the video and actually see and read for you. But I'm just going to show you a slide to explain what is XRY and what are the form of these extractions that may have actually taken place, that the SAPS may have done in order to collect or download critical information from these cell phones. So this is the full presentation that I've actually done for you guys so that you can get the overview of what is XRY and what are some of the things that you can actually do. So now there's what we call a physical extraction. Oh my goodness. Let's try again. Yes. On what is XRY? It's a forensic tool that is actually used to collect or download information from the cell phones. You'll read through these explanations. The extraction concept. One, there's logical extraction. So when you do logical extraction, it's just a quick download information so that you can use it to get a bare minimum. Physical extraction, and then it's entirely up to you in terms of which which method will be best depending on the case that you are dealing with. There is a concept of logical extraction as well as its limitation. Physical extraction, this is just a detail of extraction where you collect more evidence. This one actually really like takes a little bit longer, and you can be able to view the deleted and undeleted messages. So in terms of the high level, this is what you can do. You can pause and actually look in terms of the comparison, what logical will do and what is a physical extraction can do. This, I am trying to show this good people so that we can understand that the forensic work, it's not something that you just wake up overnight and then do it. But then now, to also prove that the evidence that you've collected is preserved correctly, there is a forensic workflow, certain things that you need to do. When you're talking about the seizures of a device, you collect the device, you put it in an isolated bag. So normally we use a Faraday bag, or you wrap it a foil so that your device does not connect to the network while it waits. It waits for it to be to be examined. But in this case, we know that this process did not take place because according to Pinky, it's still around 3 a.m. in the morning. These phones are pinging around along the N3. So so for me, I can easily conclude by saying, when we consider the discipline of what needs to happen with regards to mobile forensic or mobile examination, I believe that the officers who Steyn, Mushwana, Mabasa, and Kos may have not done all the due diligence that is expected for them to actually do when they're doing a mobile forensic work. So this means that at least there is no credibility on the mobile evidence that has been presented before the court. I'm saying there is no credibility on the mobile evidence that is presented before the court. I think if these 5 accused were being represented by people who have knowledge, these issues may have been dismissed. There is no way that the cell phone evidence that is provided there in court will stand any scrutiny, any serious scrutiny, because they may have omitted key and critical steps that are a foundation of any mobile forensic work. So what then we're going to do next, good people, is that we'll then continue to actually expose the forensic principles that were not followed in this case. Therefore, I can say to you now that we have been shortchanged. The officers that have presented there, they are a shame in a South African police in this department, because what they presented, it's not a reflection and the capability of our SAPS services. SAPS have more equipment, they're more than capable of doing this work correctly. There are instances where SAPS have excelled in their forensic job. Why this work is actually appears to be an embarrassment, it's because people who've been involved in this case, they've not been in pursuit of the truth. They've always been trying to prevent the truth. They've been defeating the ends of justice. So you see the pattern of the way that they've been handling themselves. It wasn't to get us to the truth, but it was only to see ways how best they can hide evidence. Thank you. We'll see you on the next recording.